everyone, it's me, Krista. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. If not, welcome for the very first time to my little art corner here on YouTube. Today we're going to be playing around with all the ink that came in the SketchBox Premium Box for January 2021. I actually had a lot of ideas for this one, but a lot of them would be much better on a larger piece of paper or on a canvas. This is like a tiny 4x6 piece of paper, so I decided to go with a kind of drippy skull. To do the sketch, I'm just using the Caran d'Ache graph wood pencil in 3H that came in this month's box. And so far I like the pencil. I haven't had to sharpen it at all yet, so it seems like it keeps its point pretty darn well. Trying to take my time here and make sure that the lines are pretty much exactly where I want them. The sketch process for this one took longer than I think the rest of the painting did. I did want to try to see if just wetting the ink that was still on the palette from the test swatches would re-wet pretty easily, and it looks like they do not. It was worth trying, though. I applied the yellow ink to the eye sockets, the nasal cavity, and a little heart that I put in the forehead. Then I mix in a little bit of red. I wanted to make it look like there's a bit of a glow coming from inside the skull itself. I start pulling in some of the blue into the skull, and then I start playing around with the other colors we have here, pulling in the red and the yellow. I wanted to make it a little psychedelic and drippy looking. I also wanted to see how well the inks will blend in with each other when it's just applied right next to each other on the piece of paper, and I wanted to see how close to a watercolor application I could get with these inks, and the answer so far is pretty darn close. With a lot of water, it can look a bunch like watercolor, but it's really nice because they are also really opaque when you don't use a lot of water. It's a best of both worlds scenario for me. I said in the last video that I do already love these Speedball inks that came in this month's box. I hadn't tried the Holbein one before this, but I love it too. That red is just gorgeous. It can be super opaque, but you can make it really soft and pink if you want as well with a bunch of water. It's really nice. I just really enjoyed how these applied on this paper here. I also really loved the paper that we got in this month's box. It is by Magnon, I believe is how you say it, and it's the Italia 100% cotton, 140-pound watercolor paper. It is thick, and I didn't use any tape for this one. I do use a lot of water when I apply the background later, and it curled a tiny bit, but for the most part it stayed pretty flat. It did not warp nearly as much as some other watercolor papers that I've tried. As you can see here, I'm just using a lot of water and jumping around with the different ink colors and letting them blend into each other. I really enjoyed the process of doing this one. I think it's just that the supplies worked really well, I liked what I ended up painting, and I just had fun with it. Granted, I pretty much always have fun when I get to use bright colors and or when I paint a skull, so it's best of both worlds here. I did take time to allow it to air dry in between certain layers. I did not pull in a hairdryer for this one. With the amount of water I was using with the ink, I was worried that pulling in a hairdryer to help dry it more quickly would make it go in directions I didn't want it to go. At this point, I want there to be some very bright yellow highlights throughout, so I am dipping the brush directly into the lid of the yellow ink jar here. I wanted the brighter parts to look like it was applied with a paintbrush, so I wanted it to be rough, and I didn't really want to blend it out. I just wanted that bright yellow contrast. I also really enjoy how versatile the dagger brush by Dynasty that came in this month's box is. I was able to get some pretty thin lines with it, but I could also cover a large chunk of paper. For the background, I am just using a lot of water, the red and the blue, and layering it up a little bit, once again letting them play into each other and creating this kind of soft periwinkle color. This project just came really easy for me. I think it's just because I went with the flow. I just wanted to do a fun little piece where I didn't get so stressed out and caught up in the details as I can get with some other ones. At this point in the painting, I'm just filling in more of that background, blending in the colors together a little bit more, and then I dip into my yellow jar again to add in some more rough little highlights. After all the ink is dried, I end up pulling in the Staedtler pigment liner that came in this month's box. It's a little chisel tip, so it's really interesting because I've never really used a chisel tip liner. I've used bigger chisel tips for much larger pieces. So it was interesting seeing the variation in line weights just depending on how you move the marker, and I tried to use it to my advantage. It did take a second to get used to, because I am used to a liner that's just the same size all around. I use the liner to reinforce my outline and add in some texturing to different areas of the skull itself. After I finish up the outline, I decided to bring in some more dots to the background, because it's me, I just have to do it. So I ended up using the yellow ink and the red ink for that. Overall, I really enjoyed this month's box. I really love the watercolor paper that came in it, and I'm positive I'm going to use that way more. And obviously, I really enjoyed the inks and the paintbrush. One of my favorite boxes I think I've gotten from SketchBox. But with that, this project and therefore this video are pretty much done. If you liked it, please hit that like button. If you have any comments, questions, feelings, concerns, or you've used any of the items in this month's box, let me know all about that in the comment section down below. If you want to see more videos like this, please feel free to subscribe. I do SketchBox unboxings and projects once a month. As always, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day or night to watch this video and listen to me ramble. I greatly appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you guys soon, and you will most definitely be hearing from me soon. Bye, everybody!